Hello, I am so excited you're here in the stress resilience micronutrient map. We are going to be diving into how to support a body that is ambitious, is busy, is active, is fit through micronutrients. Okay, so beyond just take a multivitamin, we are going to have some actionable takeaways today for the following nutrients: sodium, potassium, vitamin C, glycine, vitamin A, iron, omega 3s. Okay, super excited you are here. So, just a reminder, refresher, the micronutrients we consume in food and in supplements influence how the gut and the brain communicate. Why does this matter? Because our brain, right, is going to influence our mood. Okay, our gut and our brain are connected. Our thoughts are also going to influence how we actually digest our food, how our gut, whether our gut is going to be more inflamed or less inflamed, that's going to influence our immune system, our skin, our everything, right? So our gut and our brain are really the foundation of our health. And if nutrients influence those things, then we want to be aware of them. Okay, so this is just kind of a recap of some of the nutrients. We're not going to cover all of these today, but how they actually do that, some of the mechanisms, and why they are so important. Okay, so you've probably heard of cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone. Cortisol is produced from emotional stress, physical stress, exercise, undereating, all of these different things, microbiome imbalances. Knowing if you are high or low cortisol is not really something we're going to go into in this course. We're just going to support your body's ability to regulate its own self, right? Regulate if you're high or low cortisol, we're going to support its ability to get into a state of balance and a state of health, okay? So if you are more like you resonate with a lot of those things, you're like, yep, that's all stuff I've been experiencing, then you're probably more depleted in these different nutrients. Testing is really the only way to truly see where your nutrients are at. There's both hair testing and blood and urine testing I use for different types of nutrients. Okay. If you've worked with me before or you've taken the happy hormones method, you have probably seen this lovely visual that I created to just show us the not only the importance of understanding how to prevent a lot of cortisol production, right? We don't want to be in a calorie deficit for too long. We want to get on top of anxious and critical thinking, like critical negative self-talk, and environmental stressors. But sometimes, right, there's going to be those things we can't necessarily remove from our life. So also repleting those nutrients that are getting lost and are getting used up through our diet and our supplements, and watching out for some of these things down here that tell us we are in a more stressed state, like low progesterone, poor muscle mass, blood sugar. So what I wanted to start with at the beginning, and I forgot, so we're going to go through this quick now, is this biological audit that I created. So this goes through, and you will get a copy of this also, like some of those actual data points too that you can look at before you run functional labs with me, or maybe while you're working on these things that a lot of my clients already have access to. They just don't know how to interpret them. So, like your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate, your basal body temperatures, and just your cycles. All of this is data. And even if you're kind of like, I don't know how to interpret this, I would just encourage you to start consuming and or acquiring this data, recording it, and making notes of where it shifts. Because sometimes the data can actually really show us that our body's responding well before maybe we think it's responding well. Okay. Your lipids, that's another really good one to look at. LDL, HDL, cholesterol, that's something that's really commonly tested, but not well educated on. Okay, there's actually, unfortunately, still a lot of misinformation I hear people getting about their lipid levels. And then, of course, like your digestive patterns. If you've been having constipation, bloating, loose stools for a long time, there's definitely something with your nervous system going on. There may also be some gut dysfunction, but a lot of times the real root is in our nervous system and the things causing us cortisol. Um, Inflammation too, we can look at inflammation, interpret that with different numbers. So check that out, start looking at some data. Okay, let's get into these nutrients. Okay, so the first one I want to touch on is vitamin C. So vitamin C is an antioxidant. it can be really, really helpful for just kind of improving our recovery from exercise, as well as lowering our cortisol response after a psychological stressor. So I do like a supplement of this one if you feel like you're in kind of the depths of stress and you need some support. I think 500 to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. I like liposomal from Quicksilver Scientific. Also, just working on getting this from food, fruits, vegetables, fruit juices have some good vitamin C. B vitamins, also important in the metabolism of cortisol. Not always where I start with clients. I do prefer to use blood work before we add a lot of B vitamins, but if you take a multivitamin, you've been using that, it's likely not causing harm. It just may not be the most strategic approach that I would take with labs. So B vitamins, though, can be something that can really, really be deficient too. Potassium is a nutrient we want to get from food. Okay, I'm not going to read through all of these like functions of potassium. That's for you to go back to, but I really just want to highlight here this list of potassium foods so that you can start building potassium into your diet. If you're also working on tracking macros and getting enough fiber, potassium is another great thing to be looking at. And is something that if you're gonna have more carbs in your diet and you're training hard and you're building muscle and you need those carbs, you want to make sure they're coming from potassium sources, right? They're not just coming from sugar or from bread. Okay, those are not going to give you enough minerals. Okay. Potassium is also really essential for thyroid health. So if you're struggling with like low basal body temperatures, that's a big one that I have struggled with. Adding more potassium can help with not just that, but also regaining regular menstrual cycles, right? Your cycles are really connected to your thyroid health. And so even before your blood labs are going to show up, your thyroid may be struggling to function well, and under eating can really also influence this in a bad, not good way. So I would start with potassium before I would ever give somebody iodine and higher doses of other nutrients. Okay. Sodium also important. In my population I work with, I don't tend to see too much sodium. If you're eating out a lot or eating a lot of processed foods, you may get too much sodium. I actually see more often people have low sodium. So as we're working on potassium, make sure you're also hitting the minimums with sodium. I do have some of my favorite electrolytes on here. Just as you can see, like Element compared to Ravi, there can be big differences in the sodium and even the potassium. So that's kind of like the first thing I'm looking at in my electrolytes that I'm going to choose for people. I really like the Relight because it has a good balance of the sodium and potassium. But yeah, in general, I would say like aiming for 4,000 milligrams potassium, 2,000 sodium, just kind of checking out your diet and seeing if you're close to that. There can definitely be variations in how much you do need, but it's a good starter point. Okay, next couple of pages I have are some fun recipes, some ideas for drink add-ins. So I have some more of these in my app. I always help clients to create personalized like recipe ideas when we're working together. But this is a good place to start. I also love this book, Drinking for Two by a dietitian. I found this on Amazon. So it does have recipes for pregnancy, but a lot of just really fun mocktail, nutrient-dense recipes that again, they are going to have more carbs. So hopefully you're not scared of carbs. We need carbs. But there is points where we can miss out on protein and be too many carbs. So we do want to have this balance with protein, fat, and carb. Okay, so I review a lot of that in the Happy Hormones method. If you haven't seen that, is in the Stronger community and is something that I would send any of my one-on-one clients. Okay, couple more drink ideas that I love on this page. Just to highlight here, again, cream of tartar, really easy thing to add in for potassium. I recently came across this creatine pearl complex from Ladywell, and I always love when a supplement can combine multiple things I'm already taking. So I did really like that it had collagen and creatine together. I don't know the exact minerals in the pearl powder. I just know that it has trace minerals in it. And then also want to highlight milk. So something that a lot of my clients come to me fearing is dairy because they've been told it's inflammatory or it might cause their acne or this or that. And while that can be true for some people, the types of dairy I do personally recommend are A2 dairy or raw dairy if you can, or just doing like full fat organic dairies, starting with having dairy in moderation and doing those quality forms for a lot of people. They find they actually can tolerate it. They aren't getting worse symptoms. They're actually going to improve their intake of potassium and calcium and other minerals. So, just a quick note on dairy, but happy to chat with you more about your own experience with dairy because like I said, some people really just do not do as well with it. Okay, so last couple nutrients I want to touch on: glycine, iron, vitamin A, omega-3s. So again, I'm not going to read through all of the benefits of these nutrients. If you're here, you're watching this, you probably already know, like we are going to touch on things that are really essential for detox, for hormones, for gut. Okay, so glycine, if you're not getting good amounts of meat specifically, I think this is a really great one to add in. Like as I was kind of working on transitioning from plant to more animal-based diet, I was adding in collagen because it was just a really convenient way to get some glycine in without having to eat meat as often. I like meat, I eat meat, but collagen, bone broth, glycine powders, they can really boost those the glycine intake and supports a lot of different things in our body. Okay. Pregnancy, postpartum, also a time that's really, really important to get good amounts of glycine in. Um, okay, iron, the only thing I'm really gonna say is just check this out, right? Start to really think critically about anything you are seeing in your labs. Like if you've had high or low iron, it does mean something, and your conventional medicine will not necessarily address it in the same way that I will with a more holistic functional approach. So other nutrients can make a difference in our iron levels and are really, really important. So working on other nutrients is a good place to start rather than throwing a really high dose iron in my opinion. However, some people may need some iron for a little while, but just really being cautious of overdoing iron. Iron can actually be very toxic in when it's being used for too long. So I would rather you look at other factors in your health and use that as a sign to dig deeper. Okay. Vitamin A is a great nutrient to add in and to learn a little bit more about. It can help us to absorb iron. So if you have historically struggled with low iron, even if you don't anymore, I would say you're probably going to need some iron, some vitamin A. The forms can make a difference. This is a really good chart to refer to on just how to get some vitamin A into your diet. So at least for me, like when I was struggling with my health the most, I didn't have any of these in my diet really regularly. So pick one, be consistent with it, and you will be, yeah, you'll be good. We may add even more if you work with me, but pick one, be consistent. Okay. Omega-3s, omega-6. We're bringing it home here with inflammation chat. Okay. So omega-3s have become very popular as a supplement. I would say they're kind of like right up there with a multivitamin that a lot of people do take. However, not all brands of omega-3s, just like multivitamins, are created equally. So I would just really ensure you are taking a good quality brand. And if you're not sure, I have two on this guide that I really like that you can get in my full script, as well as a whole list of how you can get omega-3s from food. And if you've struggled with some of these issues, like cortisol issues, gut-brain connection issues, fertility, skin, even like mood and mental well-being, like omega-3s are a really great place to start. We do need some omega-6s, but we typically get plenty of those in the standard American diet, actually too much oftentimes. So I would focus more on how do you increase your omega-3s from foods and supplements consistently. Especially in the luteal phase. If you are like, I don't want to supplement every single day, do it in the luteal phase and you will thank me, I promise. Okay, these are two of my all-time favorite options. This is a really high dose omega-3 formula. Even if you take half the serving size, you're gonna get a really good dose. Okay, so I have a flow chart here. If you are still unsure, if you need to focus on micronutrients, here are some questions to walk you through. And if you would like to take it a step deeper, I would love to chat with you about my lab options, what that looks like, what the timeline is like, and get you started moving forward. All right, thanks for listening.